Hey, hi everyone. Hi Venkat. Hi
Hello.
Shashwat. Hi everyone on the joining us on the webinar. Thank you for giving us your time. So today is pretty interesting. We are actually going to show you a little bit an introduction about MCP, which I'm sure everybody's heard and knows. And then we'll walk you through under the hood of how we built an MCP for our threat intel application. And then we'll show you how easy it is to integrate it with various MCP clients. MCP is supported now by pretty much every AI app out there. Though it was kind of introduced to the world by Anthropic, and Claude obviously was the first to start supporting it. But we've also now seen support for it within ChatGPT. The latest agent kit from OpenAI also allows you to add MCPs, and even um, something like Manus, one of my favorite tools, also supports adding MCPs. So MCP is becoming like the de facto mechanism to connect your LLM client to capabilities out there. So let's do a quick 5-minute dive into what is MCP and why do we need it. So let's imagine a world without MCP where you have, let's say, 3 or 4 AI-enabled apps running on your desktop. Let's say you have, you use ChatGPT, you use Claude, you use Cursor or VS Code. Uh, let's say you have these 4, 5 tools running. Now, based on needs, we keep switching between different clients. So let's say that you want all of these tools to talk to Slack, you want them to talk to HubSpot, you want them to talk to Gmail, maybe access data from your Google Drive or your OneDrive, so on and so forth. So in a non-MCP world, each of these applications will have to connect to each of these tools or servers. And so that will be an M into N kind of integration that has to be built if you're talking about the API world. With MCP, a kind of layer gets created and a uniform exposed interface is created for all of these apps. And then you simply have the same integration layer that works with all of the capabilities on the server side. It's a little confusing because we have the following components that go into this MCP architecture. So if you just look at this, you have a user interface, which could be, let's say, I'm looking at the Claude desktop screen. And then you have Claude desktop itself, which is the MCP client, which then talks to an MCP server. The host system is my laptop or my device. So it could be the Windows or Mac or whatever system you're using. And MCP on the server side exposes basically 3 capabilities to the user. It exposes tools. Primarily, that's what we're seeing a lot of implementation of. It also exposes prompt templates, which the MCP clients can use to better use the server, so prompt templates. And it also exposes resources, which are files, data, or APIs that the MCP client can use. We'll not go too much into the security aspects of this, but essentially, this is a protocol that is for AI apps to be able to talk to AI-enabled servers, which have tools, resources, and prompts at the other end. The flow actually is that, and we'll show you this of how it works under the hood. The flow is actually that your MCP client will in fact talk to the LLM, not the server. So whatever you want from the server and the server wants from an LLM, it will redirect through the MCP client to the LLM. So you have a filtering mechanism over there as well. Um, so I think with that, we'll take a halt. We'll give it over to Venkat to demonstrate. And if you've not yet started using MCPs, I would strongly encourage that you explore them very quickly. If you have, can you guys see the Claude desktop? Venkat, can you see this screen, the Claude desktop?
Yes.
Cool. So for example, here it's like super simple to add connectors, different um, software call it different things, but essentially most of them call them connectors. So you can see I have a bunch of connectors added over here, and these are all capabilities that get exposed to, and these are existing connectors. I can connect, for example, to HubSpot. I can connect to Gmail, Google Drive, a bunch of this stuff which is exposed. And I mean, there are tens of thousands of MCP servers out there. You can also add your own. So you can go ahead and add a custom connector, etc. You can see I've been playing around with Hexstrike, which is a pen testing MCP, other security tools, etc., etc. So with that, Venkat, over to you to take us through the threat intel MCP and show us, what it does, how it works, and how can we build like custom threat intel feeds using that MCP.
Thanks, KK. Let me share my screen here. Take the entire screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me start with a demo here. So let's say I'm a security person, I'm a CISO at an e-commerce company in Asia, and I want to take a look at which CVEs I need to worry about today. So what that means and how to prioritize. So what is the day for me looks like? What vulnerability should I go after? What should be my most worries? Based on my profile, based on my tech stack, based on my region. So let's see what this does here. So now it should go look at what my the tools are that are available for the LLM here, which is the cloud desktop, and you can pretty much do this on any MCP client which has a UI, whether it's Cursor, whether it's Cloud. Now ChatGPT has integration as well. So what it is doing is it is thinking through what it has in terms of the tool set, whether it should do web search, whether it has MCP servers that are specialized in that, or whether it should do something else. So now, if you look at this, it is saying it has a bunch of things. Now it wants to go look at the CISA known exploited vulnerabilities. It doesn't, I didn't tell it to go look at CISA vulnerabilities, but it chose to do so because probably I said what I need to do more, what I need to worry about today. And it said, okay, let me see what CISA had released today. See, CISA is a well-known agency that releases known exploit, the CISA KEV list, known exploitable vulnerability list. Since I said I want to get a list of vulnerabilities, which vulnerabilities I need to worry about most, it is going and looking at CISA. It doesn't know how to get CISA. It looked at its tools and it found a tool that our MCP server in this case with a tool that is giving it the known exploitable list of CISA in the last 10 days. So here is the request that it made to the MCP server. In this case, the tool that is exposed to the MCP server has a argument called days ago, and it made that call to the MCP server to that tool with the argument days ago equals 10. And I'm assuming that it picked 10 because of the last 10 days. It wants to get the latest vulnerabilities. And you can see the response from our MCP server here is this list of vulnerabilities from CISA. Now it's making the second call to get threats API or MCP server, and after it got some threat list, and now it is making a call to get breaches. And get breaches is essentially an MCP server/tool again to get the latest breaches, and it's making a call to tell it what are the breaches that happened in e-commerce industry in Asia region. So it's choosing to go through step by step, looking at what the user has asked for, what it needs to do to cater to the user request, which is, I am an e-commerce company in Asia, and my end goal is which vulnerabilities I need to be worried about most, and it slice the problem into first I need to go look at what are the known KEV list, and next I need to go look at what the threat intel is out there, and next I need to see whether any e-commerce company in Asia got breached. Next, I need to go look at all threat intel news. So it's taking a step-by-step approach, and for each step, it is calling the best known tool available to it. If I don't give any MCP servers or tools, it will go do a web search if it's enabled, or worst yet, it'll hallucinate. But here, since we have MCP servers, it's going and looking at the corresponding tools that we have, and it is getting the information from there, and it is taking that information, and it's making the next API call based on the information it got, and it's going step by step. It will go through about for, let's say, 2-3 minutes here. While it's going through, I'll show you how it's doing it, what it's doing. So if I take a look at here, what KK has shown before is the connectors and MCP servers that it has. So I connected 2 MCP servers. You can see Transilience Threat Intel MCP server, and if you look at that, these are all the tools that it has available to it. And you can correlate these tools with the tools that it called before, which is get threats, get breaches, get products, get threat intel news. And you can also see, I also connected the Transilience vulnerability prioritization MCP server, and it has a few tools of get known vulnerabilities, query a particular CVE, or prioritize vulnerabilities. And what it's doing is it's taking a look at these MCP servers and the corresponding tools, and it's picking the right tool to call for a given task that I gave it. Let's go back and see how it's doing here with this query. So it looked at the threats, the vulnerabilities, and it got a few breaches that are going on, and it found a few CVEs, and it queried the information regarding the CVE. And this is our API responding to the corresponding request. And if you can see that, this is our vulnerability API, which has the best information that is available on a given vulnerability. And you will not get that on NVD or any other vendors out there. So our API gave it the information regards to, I think this is the Oracle vulnerability that happened last week. It has information not just on what the vulnerability is, what are the versions of Oracle that it's affecting, but it also has information around how to remediate. Is there exploit POC out there? What is the characteristics of an attacker that could exploit it? So we have about 80 or so characteristics of the corresponding vulnerability, and it got that by making that query. Now, since it got the threat intel info, it got the breaches, it knows everything about your stack. It found 3 or 4 CVs in this case that are applicable to you. Now it wants to prioritize the vulnerabilities, and we have an API for that. It made a call to that API, and the API takes a list of CVEs, takes a look at all the attributes of the CVE from a exploit standpoint, from a risk standpoint, from a asset standpoint. For example, whether the asset impacts databases, in this case Oracle, whether the asset impacts Adobe applications. So we have a risk methodology based on MITRE framework to get to prioritize the vulnerabilities per impact, per exploit characteristics, per asset characteristics. And this is what it came up with. Wants you to prioritize the Windows WSS vulnerability that came about practically last week because the impact is high, because it's a Windows Server update that it's impacting, and it's a remote code execution with system vulnerabilities and no authentication required. And it wants to fix that first, and then it goes on and on with respect to the rest of the vulnerabilities, why they're scored lower, etc. So within a few minutes, and practically the user not doing anything, by giving a prompt and a few MCP servers, the LLM was able to make all the queries that are needed to figure out and analyze the data that came back from the MCP servers and figure out what is needed. I'll show a little bit about the backend of what is here. So if I go look at the managed connectors that KK was showing before, you would see that there is a developer here, and the MCP servers that I added are here, and there is edit config, and edit config is the configuration file that exists on your system where you configure the MCP servers. And the MCP servers can be local or can be remote. And in this case, it's a remote MCP server. Let me show you that file here. This is how the file would look like. There is a MCP remote module that we are using because it's a remote MCP server here. And these are all the URLs. This is the URL for the vulnerability MCP app, and this is the URL for the threat intel vulnerability threat intel app. And once you connect these MCP servers, it will automatically pull in all the tools that these MCP servers are making available to the client. In the threat intel case, we made the tools that are available to it are get breaches, get products, get vulnerabilities, get threats, etc., and get breaches, get product advisories, get breach reports, etc. And from a vulnerability prioritization, these are the three tools that are available. So you can have any number of tools available at each MCP server, and once you add the MCP server, the client automatically knows all the tools and capabilities that are available, and it can make the corresponding calls. You can go any way and direction you want. For example, here, what I was trying to do is using cloud skills. Since you got the threat intel, you got the vulnerabilities, and I want to make a PowerPoint deck from the information that I got. So here I said I'm a banking CISO in the USA. You query all the threat intel and make me a PowerPoint. Yeah, and using cloud skills. So it checked that it has the corresponding PowerPoint skills. It got the threat intel news. It got these CISA vulnerabilities. It did all the queries that you need to make, and it made a PowerPoint for me, for my industry, for my region, for my tech stack that I can pass on to my team. For example, here it made a pretty chart with respect to the threat intel information that it got from our APIs over the past few days, and what I need to worry about from a tactical perspective, which is patch WSS, patch the vulnerability that got in the last week or so, and also strategically, what are the threats that are happening in my industry? What are the TTPs that are happening in my industry, and what are the strategic decisions that I need to make to prioritize a tech war the other, or a trading war the other, things like that. So it's previously this used to take a quarterly report, something like that. Now you can make a daily PowerPoint based on the threat intel. Let me take a couple of minutes to show the API, and then give it to Shashwat to go over the tech details, and then back to KK to integrate this in multiple ways into your workflows. The power behind that is the API. Let me start with the MCP server. So here, this is the code for the MCP server. So here I said this runs on any backend. This can run on AWS Lambda. This can run on a model, which is the AI compute environment. So essentially, there is a module called FastMCP, where you get that module here. So that FastMCP enables the MCP server, and you need to mount that MCP server on a HTTP server so that it is accessible from outside. If you want to expose this remotely, which we want in our case to expose this to our customers. So we mount that FastMCP or a Fast API server. This is what this one-liner is doing. We created the MCP app using FastMCP, and using Fast API, we are mounting that particular MCP app under /threatintel. So if you look at this /threatintel/MCP, that is what it's doing. It's going to the /threatintel and it's getting all the tools. For you to expose the tools, you looked at, there are 3 or 4 tools that we are making available: get all threat intel news, get product advisories, get breach advisories, etc. So each of this is a Python function here acting as a tool, and you make a decorator on top to expose that tool or the MCP server. The description of the tool tells the LLM what the capabilities of the MCP tool is. So here, the description of the tool is get breach advisories. So whenever the user says, give me latest breach advisories, it knows that that capability exists in this tool on this MCP server, and this particular code will get executed when customers ask for, when the users ask for get breach advisories. What this code is essentially doing is making an API call to our threat intel API service. For breaches, it is making an API call to /breaches. For product advisories, it is making a call to /product advisories, and vice versa. For any threat intel, it's making an API call to /threat intel. So overall, the architecture is there is a HTTP, a fast API server that user is making calls to. The MCP server sits on top of it, listening to user requests, and there are tools underneath it that are capabilities of the MCP server that the MCP server is providing. And the tools have descriptions that tell the capabilities. The tools are making calls to our APIs to get the corresponding thing. So when the user asks the LLM, I want breaches, it looks at the MCP servers and tools of what is the best tool and the best MCP server to select. And based on this description, it will select the best MCP server and the tool, and it will go execute this tool. The remote MCP server executes the tool and comes back with the output. The APIs, we are releasing the threat intel information that we have over the API, and this is public. You can get a key using your email. And once you get a key, you can query for the latest advisories, breach advisories, threat intel, etc. And everything that you see on our threat intel website that Joshua is going to show, you can pretty much get all the information that you see on our threat intel or the API. We go here and show you our threat intel app for people who are not familiar. So this is the threat news. These are the breaches. You can get PDFs, previews, etc. These are the product advisories, and everything that you see here, we made it available over the API that you can call. And with a couple of copy and paste, you can make this API available to an MCP server that you can query from your cloud desktop, your ChatGPT, your Manus, whatever cursor, whatever client you have, and then you can send emails, make presentations, prioritize vulnerabilities, do anything that you want there. I'll stop here, and then for a little bit more technical details, I'll hand it over to Shashwat, who will go over the API details, how it works for a bit. Go ahead, Shashwat.
Yeah, Venkat Shashwat, one of the attendees has their hand raised, Karthik. Deepak, is it possible for them to unmute and ask the question?
Let me check.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, yes, I have unmuted.
Yeah, Karthik, go ahead. You had a question. Or you can put it in the chat. I think let's proceed.
Sure. Is my screen visible to everyone? So let's now discuss in more detail about our API and what services it provides to you, how you can access it, how you can use it. And then once you know what are the capabilities of the API is, we will dive a bit more deeper into what our threat intel platform is and what are its capabilities, how it is different from other threat intelligence platforms out there, and what are the novel services that it provides to you. So starting off with the API, the first thing that you need to do once this, as Rinkat said, that this app URL is public, you can go now and use it. We will share it with you. So once you go to its redoc, these are the five tabs which are there in the doc. The first thing which you can do is you can go to user management, and here you have two options. The very first step that you shall do is to create your user account, and this basically means register with us that you are our customer so that you can use the API, right? So here you can pass your name and company is optional, but you have to pass your email ID. And in the response, you will get against that email ID an API key, which you need to pass in the authorization header whenever you make a request to our whatever services, whatever endpoint that you want to use, right? Later on, using the same email ID against which you have registered and got the API key, you can use that email ID to rotate your API key as well. Now, once you have created, once you have registered yourself as a user, on the app itself, we have three major, buckets or three major sections of the advisories that we provide. One are threat advisories, then breach advisories, and the program advisories. The same is reflected on the API as well. The endpoint structure of all of it's same, so that it becomes easy for you to access. It's just you need to if you want to, let's say, get the advisory PDF, then or you get the IOCs. The overall format of it is same. It's just that you need to change the endpoint, whether it is slash threats or slash breaches or slash forwards, right? So if you see on the application as well, when we go to threats, against a particular threat name, we have two options which you can, two types of data which you can download. One is the advisory PDF, which as you can see here in the preview, and the same is the IOCs, right? So you can preview the IOCs and download them. Now to do that over the API, what you can do is you need to, since this is our API, you need to provide that what you're exactly searching for, right? So what you need to provide against threats here is the search parameter, right? In which you need to provide what is the query that you search for, and you can also pass a limit. So once you pass a particular query that against what is the threat name that you are searching for, you can pass a limit or the list of the possible options that we have, which match against the query that you have passed. This is an optional parameter, but you must pass the what you're searching for so that we can give you the result, right? And against of that, you will get a report ID and the threat name, which matches to your query, and publish that. A list of this, right? Array of these of objects which will have these three properties. Now, against this, what you need to do is either you can get the threat report IOCs or you can get threat report advisory. By advisory, we mean here the PDF, which we were showing here, right? This PDF. So these are the two files which you can download against a report ID once you pass at what exactly you're searching for. The same is in the products as well. You will pass the query, we will return you a report ID. That report ID you need to pass along with the API key in order to get the IOCs or to get the advisory period. Same for the breaches as well. So, and in case this is for monitoring, you can use a self check endpoint or check if something is our API is down or something you need to fix at your end. So these are the these are the various options that you can do with our API. The basic purpose of this API is that the IOCs and the PDFs that we are providing on our threat intelligence portal, you can get access of the same using our API so that you can integrate with an MCP server or any MCP client that so you can integrate with MCP server and add that information to whatever MCP client you're using, that is Cursor or Cloud Code or Manus, whatever MCP client that you use. So we will share this URL, try it out, and let us know any feedbacks. In order to give any feedback, you can come to our portal, and we have a feedback option here, so that you can submit a feedback here, whether it's a suggestion or a bug, any enhancements that you want in the API, any additional thing that you want from the API, and we will do our best to implement it as soon as possible. So this was about the API. The next thing that I want to let you understand that okay, this is not just yet another threat intelligence platform that we have built. It has the capabilities which makes it stand apart from the other threat intelligence portals out there. So if we begin with that, we need to first understand, if I am coming from a point of view that, hey, we have these differentiating factors, we need to sort of know the origin of those differentiating factors, as in why we chose those differentiating factors and what exactly, when you're trying to, hey, we are targeting this differentiating factor, what exact problem statement that we're trying to solve here, right? So imagine if I imagine myself as a threat intelligence engineer, there are various pain points, right? And same from if I imagine myself as a CISO, there are various pain points, right? So as a user of this threat intelligence application, me being a threat intelligence engineer, I can get a threat intel, from various platforms. So I can, there is various blog post platforms out there. There are Cisco Talos out there, right? But what happens is that being a threat intelligence engineer, I still cannot rely on one particular source to give me all of the information that is there on the internet and get that to very reliably with citations so that it is not hallucinated or malformed, right? So I need to go, this is basically a 3 to 4 days work. For example, if I get a particular threat, right? For example, if we go to a threats tab here, if I get this particular threat, for example, Iron Taurus, right? It is a 3 to 4 days job to switch between various tabs, read different blog posts, RSS feeds, analyze that particular information, and put that into a particular format that I can share it with my client, right? Second thing is that this is a targeted about a particular threat, right? Taurus that we saw. Second thing is that as a threat intelligence engineer, the next level of task for me is to track what is going on from a threat landscape point of view. What are trends that are coming up, right? What are the threat campaigns? What is the pattern of those threat campaigns that are being launched in my industry or some other industry, which, some campaign that can come to my industry as well, right? And next one of this is the person to which I'm reporting to or the stakeholders I'm reporting to. How can I organize all of these trends, all of these intel that I have collected so that, I can, present this information into a good format. Now, as a CISO, as the main points is that I need to understand the landscape as what is going on in the landscape, what are the threats that are relevant to me, what threats are not relevant to me, how much relevant is a threat to me, right? All of that. Now, in order to do all of that, as I was going about the completer factors that we have, the 3 to 4 days tasks that I was telling to you, all of those tasks is done in just 20 minutes here with 100% automation without HATL here. So all of the tasks which you see here, this entire platform which you see here is agentic, 100% agentic. All of this is at the backend done by our agent, which collects information, reads article, vets those information, lets those information pass through various checks, and then it gives you here in your coherent format, right? And as you can see in this platform, you can see, you can select last day, last week, 15 days, 1 month, and you can check that what are the threats that are coming up, what are the products it is affecting, right? What are the regions it is affecting, what are the industries that are getting affected at one shot, right? And this is not just yet another information portal. If you see here, for example, this advisory that we're providing here, it not only contains the information, if you scroll down, it contains the references as well, right? And it includes all of the references that are out there on the internet from which you can possibly get information about threat intel, right? So it is already doing all of that job which a threat intel engineer used to do in a span of 3 to 4 days. So that you can save your time and focus your energy into a direction, to mitigate that particular issue or switch your approach from being reactive to proactive in threat intelligence. And this leads to a 99.65% faster time to insight, right? As I said, since the information that you used to collect in 3 4 days and then pass on to your stakeholders and then it will come, it is now happening in less than half an hour, right? And since it is agentic, it is doing all of this stuff 24/7, right? There's no thing which it stops it from discovering a particular threat or working in particular limited hours, something like that. So these are the differentiating factors. If I differentiate it from an agentic this was from the agentic perspective of what it is doing. Now, from a market positioning point of view, how we are different is that the first point that I highlighted is autonomous threat hunting, or the entire data which you are seeing on this particular platform is collected, vetted, and organized and presented by an agent. Now, you must be wondering that this data might be hallucinated, might have hallucinations, or how can I, check that this is the IOCs that you're giving is virus total verified and all of it. So I will, we are coming to that. We will be, I will be explaining you what are the checks that are going on, what is the pipeline here, how the agent is performing all of these tasks. So we will come to that. But this was the first refreshing factor that, the autonomous threat hunting part of it. Autonomous report generation, it means it's not only collecting the data, but it is doing this particular part as well, organizing intelligence for the stakeholders so that, you don't have to do it, collecting information and putting into a nice report format. Third thing is, I'm coming to this, I will say the multi-layer validation part of it. Since it is done by an agent, we have done a lot of work here to make sure that the entire system has guardrails. It follows a particular methodology and a validation approach, which makes sure that what are the IOCs or the information that we're getting in our report or the HTML is right and relevant to you. Continuous learning. Continuous learning means since it's an agent, the bottom information that it is collecting, we are making sure that it not only, this one-time job of collecting information and giving back to you, but it's also learning from whatever information that is getting collected. And the last thing was sector and application intelligence, as you saw on the platform. That is not only giving the advisories, but if you see, for example, you want to see that Aaron Taurus for which the advisory that we published today, what are the industries that it is affecting? What are the products that are getting affected? What are the regions that are getting affected? Similarly, for a product advisory, what are the versions that are getting affected? Right? What are the CVs here? Right? You can check all of that. Now, if we come back here to the process part of it, as I said, the entire platform is agentic and all of is done within 20 minutes by an agent. How can I make sure that the system is collecting the right information? It is, not only the right information, but the coverage of it is wide enough. The data that I'm giving to you is, properly vetted and checked so that you can rely on it and build your systems around it. So the process here, as you can see this funnel shaped diagram, it can be divided into 3 different sections. One is filtration, extraction, and synthesis. This is also what a normal threat intel engineer does, right? What, for example, if I going back to the same example that we took, which of Aaron Taurus, the first thing is to get the coverage right. As in, I am collecting all of the sources, data from all of the sources, and I'm making sure that I'm not missing out a particular source which might be relevant or which might give me a relevant information, and it shall not happen that I'm missing out that. So getting all of those sources and then filtering those sources to get what sources are right, what sources are outdated, what sources are relevant to me, is the filtration part of it. Now, once I get the right sources, I need to extract that data from those sources. And then so when I have a huge corpus or collection of data, I need to synthesize it into a particular format, into a structured format that gives information in a consistent format which I can consume or I can give it to my stakeholders. So this was a three-stage pipeline in this funnel which we are following. Now let's go to the checks. So like, for example, so as you can see, this is a funnel, right? So data is flowing through it. Now, when data flows to this particular funnel, we shall know what are the checks against which this data is passing through, so that once all of these 7 checks are done, you get the right data. First one is the existence check. Existence check as in the page or the citations or the references which you're citing. Once you click on these citations, they must exist. For all of the reports that we are citing you, once you get that particular report and you click on it, and if it is less than 10 days, you will get that particular article right. It will not happen that that article is not opening up. Second one is recency check. So in threat intelligence, the time or the temporal aspect of it is very important. In in what sense I mean is that if a threat happened 15 days ago, there's no point, okay, you can take a look at it and get the IOCs, you can plan something, but it would have done enough sufficient damage that, it's way too old for you to consider now. So it shall be in a way that if a threat arises, it shall be instantaneous or real, near instantaneous, that you got to know about it, right? So we have taken a bandwidth of 10 days, and most of the threads are, this is a very long bandwidth. Most of the threads that you see on our app are between from today to last 5 to 6 days. But 10 is the good enough bandwidth that we have taken for a particular source which is giving the information about that particular thread. So any URL which is more than 10 days old, we reject that and we are not considering it for information collection because that has already evolved in that particular time field. Third is the
So
relevance step.
if you if we can just take a little bit of a segue to answer some of the questions in the chat. So
Sure,
if you'll allow me to just quickly answer a couple of the questions, and then we can,
sure.
look to. So one of the questions is coming around, usage of the tools. So I just want to show you, like, if you have multiple MCPs added, and Venkat has answered it, but I just wanted to show you how it works. So, I was just using testing out a chat to show me Windows vulnerabilities, right? So let me share my screen. So here, if you see in my Claude desktop, I have, I think I showed this a little bit earlier, but now I've actually connected my HexaStrike MCP as well. And on the server of this is running on a Kali Linux system. So, it's the reason I'm showing you this is because when I asked Claude the question, Claude Desktop a question on certain threats or vulnerabilities, it figured out on its own. If you see over here, if you see its flow, right? I said, give me a report of all the Windows threats. Just right now, I was just checking this out. So it definitely calls the Transilience tool. You can see get threats. It calls that. And then, it got this data from Transilience on threats attacking Windows systems. And then it actually initially tried to go and ask Hextrack. So this H is for the Hextrack tool. So this figured out on its own. I actually canceled it because I had not got my Hextrack server running at that time, which you can see over here. So I felt that this would not work. But which tool to call is essentially decided by the MCP client. So the way it works is that, let's say I put a query here, right? Let's say I start a new chat and I say, give me top 10 or give me vulnerabilities and threats related to Windows for 2025. let us say this is my question. I can make it more specific. Muzaffar also has a question in terms of technology. So I can actually add technologies here, right? I can keep adding uh, stuff like that. Now, what happens is that Claude will decide on its own what tools to call. So, this
You can
is
probably add stuff to the system prompt probably as well, because if you want tool preference, like I want these MCP servers to be chosen over some other MCP servers, you can probably add that to the system prompt. Is what I'm thinking.
exactly. You can specify the tool if you wish to. You can specify the order of the tools in which you want it to work. But if you don't, I just wanted to show you that it kind of figures out on its own. You see, it first did a internet search, right? It's found out stuff on the internet, which I could have told it don't do it, right? Because I may not trust what it is searching on the internet. So I can even say don't search. And then it is calling threat intel. Now, how it figured this out is that in every MCP server, the list of tools that the MCP server gives is declared to the MCP client. So you can see that I have declared these tools: get threat intel news, get products, get breaches, get threat report files, APT specific news, etc. So, and every tool has a description. So what the MCP client does, it now has a list of all the MCP server, the tool names and the tool descriptions. It takes this information, feeds it to an LLM, which of course is Sonnet 4.5 in this case, and says, here's the user query, which tool should I call? And then the LLM tells it that these are the tools that you should call. So it could be multiple tools that get called as well. So I'll just say allow. I've kept it like that so that you understand that it is always going to ask for your permission. Again, this is configurable, but it will typically ask for your permission of which tools to call. And same if I'm trying to run, for example, a pen test or a recon, I don't have to specify my tools. It will figure that out from the list of tools that Xstrike, for example, exposes, and then run those tools in a sequence. So which tools to call in what sequence always comes from the MCP client, which is my Claude desktop, talking to my LLM, which is Sonnet 4.5. And there are multiple ways you can keep playing around with this. I mean, there is a generic MCP client tool that you get called 5IRE or 5I, 5 years, sorry, 5IER. I mean, there's a lot happening on the MCP front. You want to look at the entrails of MCP. There's another tool called MCP Inspector. So this is now, producing the. This is, for example, what's one of the things that is being most actively exploited, the Windows SUS. So if you have Windows SUS, you better get that fixed, patched, and also, and over 175 vulnerabilities overall in Windows for this year. And this patch Tuesday of October has 175 CVs only in patch Tuesday of October. So let this finish, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff that we can do, when it comes to tools like Claude. So once I have this data, in the old days, we would have, had to like write a report, or now we can do all of that from within Claude. So I can say create an interactive report on this. And or I think Venkat was also demonstrating that with Claude now you have something called Claude skills, and which one of the skills is PowerPoint, for example. So while it does this, I just wanted to show you this latest development or latest feature of Claude, which is Claude skills. These are the skills that I was playing around with this skill called algorithmic art. And certain skills like PowerPoint, Excel, Word, document creation, it's all now available within, pre-built within Claude. So you can actually create some pretty cool reports as well.
Yeah, I think bringing it back to the Shashwat's presentation of the filters, since there are plethora of MCP servers and these internet searching capabilities, the confidence of the MCP servers, the confidence level of the MCP servers and tools, and those trust should be established, right? So that's the reason when Shashwat says, what are the filters I'm doing? Am I searching the right things? All that stuff is beyond, for example, what Cloud does in the internet search. So whatever, if you're hooking up real tools, meaning I want to take the IOCs from here and put it into my firewalls, it is absolutely necessary that the MCP servers you're hooking into this are trustworthy. And therefore, that they are from a reputable company. You probably want to check the tech out with respect to what filtering mechanisms do they have, et cetera, before you automatically put in your firewalls and things like that connected to these MCP servers.
And people on the chat have also asked us why APIs and why are we not releasing MCPs? So obviously we will be releasing MCPs for all our products. Much of this is still a little experimental or beta. So as you can see in this case, when I tried to do it on my Claude desktop and I shifted my window view to the settings, it kind of went for a toss. I'm just trying this again on, I mean, the chats carry on, the memory carries on. So I just switched from Claude desktop to Claude on the web. And if you don't use Claude, you use ChatGPT, the same capability is available here. I don't want to switch windows now because I don't know what will happen. So let me be patient and let this finish. Again, you want to create a deck for management, you want to create a deck for whatever audience, because the data is there, it can be presented in multiple ways.
Yeah, we'll make the MCP servers available to everybody. And in the meanwhile, if anybody on the call wants a preview of the MCP servers that we used on the chat, you can just email to us, and then we'll give you a preview beta URL for you to add to your MCP clients.
I just want to show you quickly on ChatGPT. You can go to add sources, as it is called. Sorry, not add sources. You can go to settings, sorry, from here, and you can go to apps and connectors, and it has a bunch of connectors already given, but you can add. Is the correct one, Venkat?
Yeah, that should work.
Looks like it, yeah. So yeah, you can just say add, you know, give it a name, give it the description, give it the URL. In this case, we haven't given any authentication, and just say okay. And then the same stuff, you can basically use it to ask the same questions in the same way that we're using at Claude. So it's pretty similar. And finally, if you like to play around with Agent Builder, you know, you could build your own, like you could integrate this into your own apps. So this is the capability. I really dislike this capability, by the way. But let me just show you. Add an agent, give it a description, give it a system prompt, and then you know, choose your model. And then for tools, you add the same way you add your own server. So I'm going to take it from this. This is the same server, whether it's adding in Claude Desktop or ChatGPT or this one. So I give it the URL, give it some label, give it some description. That's it. There is no, there's some custom headers. So we've pre-filled from the last time I did this. And then it will connect through here. And again, you can see all of the tools are now visible here, right? You can choose whether approvals will be required or not. So just say always approve and link start over here. Yeah, and I think this should just now work. So so it's asking me for approval, right? So this is again getting it from our threat intel, because if you go back to the settings, you'll see I did not choose web search. There is another tool called web search, and this is a report that you get. Yes, you can ask this to the GPTs directly as well, and your mileage may vary. You may get hallucination, you may not. But obviously, since our all these apps are grounded in well-researched data sets, that is not the case. So you can see in this, I could have added web search as well, but I did not. And you can choose different parameters, and the output can also be modified uh, based on what you want. So, but I found this very kludgy to create agents like this. It seemed like they did not honestly figure out who they wanted to appeal to. Do they want to appeal to the NA10 users, in which case it is super unfriendly for non-coders? And if they are appealing it to engineers, then you can simply write code directly, right? Why go through this pain of dragging and dropping and having very limited capabilities here? So yeah, anyway, so I'm not a big fan yet of agent builder capabilities. But yeah, we have, we just add over here. Let's look at our interactive report if it has gotten produced. Yeah. So this is the interactive report, and you can publish this, right? You can download it. These things are not clickable. All vulnerabilities you can filter by actively exploited vulnerabilities. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff you can do, right? Once the data is there, it's reliable data. These tools give you, if you love, lovable Replit, you can use things over there as well. But this gives you a lot more control over which tools are being used, what you're calling, and what you're doing with that data. Okay, so with that, I think we can conclude today's webinar. Do we have any questions in the chat? I think we've answered all of the questions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Venkat, any concluding thoughts, remarks?
No, I think making the data available over the API and MCP servers will put the power back into the user's hands, right? I'm not reliant on a product team to create me a dashboard to answer questions. You have all the data, and then you can pretty much do whatever you want with it. So APIs plus MCP servers, I think, puts the power back onto the security users themselves, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for attending. Thank you, Shashwat. Thanks, Venkat. Thank you for our team to organize this.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.